Okay. Okay. So first of all, oh, screen. Okay. Can we all see my screen? Yeah, perfect. Cool. Thank you. All right. So there's two sites now that we're really going to be using. In seasons past on the Alpine side, we had Redwood League that we had to use to get our home games. We no longer need to do that because Biga serves that function as well. So the two sites are Got Sport. You should have got your login from Christine, and she should have tied you into your team. So this is where this site is essentially where the league gives us your schedule, and you communicate with your opponent. And when you put in the match for your home game, that's how the opponent know what time, what field, etc. So this is obviously very important. We'll go through this a bit more, and then of course, Baiga. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Baiga now, right? This is where you see your schedule. You could send emails, communicate with your team, and when you set the game schedule, this is how your teammates, your parents will see the games and see how the times and everything. Um, some in seasons past use a coach's Google Calendar when coaches have multiple teams. I don't think that's necessary anymore with Viga, but if you want to go that route too, that's perfectly okay. But Viga does have a function now where it's not. It kind of serves the purpose of that as well. So kind of all platforms in one here. Okay, so we'll get right into it. And if anybody doesn't have their GotSport login or whatnot, let me know. Or if you're not tied to your team, let me know. We'll have to get you situated. Sometimes it takes a while to go through. Okay, so initially, these are the two tabs that you're mainly going to be working with in GotSport: team management and team schedule. Okay, so team management is where you will see your team schedule. So you would click on team management. Um, I believe your team will probably just show up. Of course, I'm tied to a bunch of teams, so I have a whole list. So your team will show up. You click on matches. Takes a little bit of time. Sorry, I always have a little bit of a lag. But I think it's loading all this. Come on. Okay, matches. So I'm going to select on my team again. Only your team will populate here. I have a bunch that I'm tied to. So I'm going to go with my team, 16G Barcelona. And the event you're going to select, which is your league, is 2023 NorCal Premier Fall League. If you're an NPL team, obviously click on NPL. The majority of us will fall into this category. So this is our league. What Gutsport does, if you're playing in these tournaments, it will actually populate your schedule here as well. But we don't necessarily need to worry about that because we don't control those games anyway. So NorCal Premier Fall League, hit search. Again, I think mine has a lot of data that loads. Okay, so this is my schedule that NorCal put out from the league. So this is my 16G's current schedule. Okay, some games already put in the away games. They already set them in. That's perfectly okay. And I need to put in our home games now. So we will put one through. So this is how you first get your schedule seen. Okay. So what I like to do, or what I've been doing, is so you want to cross-reference this with what you have available, and with the other coaches' teams. So what I suggest doing is opening Biga in a totally separate browser. And so Biga has a function now. So if you click on your team, so I have two teams that I coach. If I click on my team and click on your coach's name, you'll see every game that coach is attached to. So, right, I have 16G Barcelona and 15G Black. Those are the two teams I coach. So if your team has 3, 4 teams that they coach, all of their games will populate here. So it's very similar to how Google Calendar operates. And I went ahead and added just some important dates, right? So 9/2 is Labor Day weekend. So if we do schedule a game for that weekend, I may need to just make sure I have numbers. If I could avoid it, I'll avoid it. I put some placeholders for some games that may happen. So you really have, you could really see all the games here in real time. Okay. And if you wanted to put a note, so 9/23, 9/24, we may be putting in, playing in a tournament. So I'm going to hit click new event. Okay. And I'm going to say it's a club event. And I'm going to click all of the teams that I want to see that note. So all the teams, so I click 16G Barcelona and 15G Black. Okay, details, event title, possible tournament for, let's say, 16G Barcelona. Okay, just click that it's an all-day event, and then just like Google Calendar, it'll just go to the top. Location TBD. I don't want to notify anybody yet. This is just for me, and I create. Oh, sorry, I didn't put the date. Huh? Let me put the date there. Event. 16G Barcelona, 15G Black. Title. Okay, Saturday, 9/23, all day event. Notify anybody yet? Create. Okay, so now that's, we have a note there. So now if other teams, or sorry, other schedulers for your coaches other teams, they will see that you have a tournament there potentially, so they may completely avoid that weekend to schedule games. Right? I suggest, hopefully you guys have already connected with your coaches, you have their tournament dates, and if there's any blackout dates and so forth. So this will avoid any conflicts, or should, right? So if another team wants to schedule a game on that date, they'll see that, hey, we might be playing the tournament, so let's look for another game. Okay, so that's that function. So I'm just going to keep this open on another browser, so I could go back and look at what dates and what games I have available. Okay, so from there, we are going to go ahead and I'm going to try to schedule a game. So on Baiga, you're going to click on the shield. This will bring up the teams that you schedule for. There'll probably only be one. Okay. I'm going to click on this shortcut here, fall game scheduling. And then I'm going to go to field usage. So this tells me all of the fields that are available. This team is a 7v7 team, so I will only be able to choose a 7v7 field. I cannot choose 11v11 or 9v9. Okay, so this, I could use this and cross-reference this to kind of get an idea of what's available. So green is all available, red is taken. If you click on it, it'll give you some details. Okay, I've already, daylight saving times is in November 5th. I've already kind of blocked out any games after that, so you should be good. Okay, so this gives you the purview of all of our open or closed game slots for home games. So you're going to use this a lot in cross-reference. Okay, so I'm going to, and then when I'm ready to choose my game, my match, I'm going to click on leagues, choose my team. I believe in your view, your team just comes up, but I'm going to click on my team. And on this side right here is where you actually schedule the game. Okay, and again, I can toggle through here for the field usage. Okay, so I'm ready to schedule a game in here. So I'm going to go back to Got Sport. Okay, and so I've already been in communication with one of these teams. So on 11/4, Peninsula has asked for certain dates, and so I click on this green kind of bubble right here. This is how I communicate. All of your chat should be put into this. If you choose to chat offline through text or cell phone, that's fine, but put everything in writing here. Because if there's a miscommunication and, let's say the team doesn't show up, and you told them offline over the phone that, hey, this is the time and date, but it's not in here, it's not in the chat or anything, NorCal's going to go by this and determine who's at fault, if anybody needs a forfeit or whatnot. So put all the information in the writing here. Okay. So this team, hey, they asked for on November 4th, which is the day it's scheduled, for a morning or afternoon slot. Okay, sounds good. So now let me go back and check my coach's calendar. So we're checking for November 4th. Okay, so November 4th, I already have an existing game with another team at 2 o'clock. This is this game here that was a placeholder. So I have all of this time open available to schedule. Okay. So I'm going to keep that open. So now I'm going to go into Baiga. So I'm going to look for probably a time before 2 o'clock. A field slot before 2 o'clock. Go to Baiga. Okay. So we're going to toggle through to November 4th, which is what the date is. Okay. November 4th. There's nothing showing up. Okay. November 4th. So it's a 7v7. I'm a 7v7 team, so I can only play on these fields up here. So let's see. I have an existing game at 2, so I could potentially play. So I can't do a 12:45 game because you need to account for travel, right, with all your coaches, and also communicate with your coach as to how early they want their kids there for warmups. Usually, the younger kids is about 30 minutes. Older kids, depending, 45 minutes to an hour. So we have to account for all that, right? The travel time and the warm-up time. So I could probably get a game in at 11:30. It's about an hour game. This game will be done at 12:30. That still gives me time to get to my 2 o'clock game. I need to be there by about 1:15. So that gives me ample time. Okay. So I'm going to click on the match that I want to schedule, which is November 4th. Okay, I'm going to select the field. And there's 2 ways of doing this. You could either choose the game here, right? And you have every single available open date. If you're comfortable with that, go ahead. Or you could just choose on the proper date and the proper game. And there you go. Burgess Park, November 4th, 11:30. I'm good with that. For the rest, you're going to put number set by referee and then hit submit. Okay. Now that should have gone through. So now it's red. So that's showing that time slot's taken by me. Okay. As a double check for us, we're going to go to assignments. And so that game just got put in. So this is what you're going to check to just to make sure everything matches up. November 4th, the league, the time is TBD because I haven't put it in Sport yet. We'll do that.
So Amr?
Yep. Yeah, go ahead. Hop in, Jeremy.
Sorry, I forgot I was on two devices. So your schedules aren't going to have access to this menu. This is the head scheduler only. So only you have access to that. What they're going to see is that interface that you just showed before.
Yep.
So I think they'll see their team under here, and they'll see this interface, but they're not going to be able to see the assignment.
Okay.
From there. So they'll just go in here and select the field. And once they've done it, that reserves their slot for the time being. So they can change it at another time, which is what I highly recommend to, if you're scheduling, go in and kind of reserve your times because you can always give them up. And, if you see a time you like, select it, try and work with the other team, get it in there, and then you can either change it or or keep it.
Okay.
But yeah, this is about as far as they're going to go. You can select the slot. They'll see it turn red, and then I think you just wait for it to be confirmed. So you see on the left there where it says Peninsula Youth Soccer 16G, where it says approved. It will go into Sport. It will check it against Sport, and then it will confirm it. So it'll come back as confirmed. And then once somebody on the Stanford Strikers admin side goes in and locks the game and imports it into Pentra, then you're good.
Got it. Okay. So perfect. Okay. So check for this. Make sure it's approved like Jeremy said. Okay. So now we have the field reserved into Baiga. Now we need to go into Sport and notify our opponent and reserve it there so that NorCal knows as well. So we're going to go back into Got Sport. I'm also going to chat with them and tell them, I'm always more information, the better. And the nicer we are on these chats, usually the better, because, kill them with kindness. If we're going to need to change a game, usually they're a lot more receptive if we're just, nicer about it and we offer different times and this and that, because we'll probably need a favor in return at some point. Okay, so I'm going to say, hey, we have on 11:30 time spot, support there. Right. So now that will generate an email to them. I'm sure you guys are getting a lot of emails with that messaging. Okay, so now to schedule the game, I'm going to click on team scheduling. And your league again is NorCal Premier Fall League, U18, U19, Stanford Strikers. Okay, and here this is, with the merge, we have a ton of fields now, right? So you're going to get a lot of fields that populate here. So a little shortcut we could do is hit pitch view. And I could take out all of the fields that, I'm sorry. I meant to be on venue view. So I could take out all the fields that I will not be using. So I will not be using Coverly. I scheduled the game at Burgess, right? So just want to get rid of these so it's a little bit more palatable. I can read it all. Okay. So I need to go to the date now. The date was November 4th. I just clicked up here. Okay, November 4th. So this on your end will show 0 out of 1. So you have one game that's on the schedule, but it hasn't been scheduled into Got Sport yet. Of course, mine shows 0 out of 23 because I'm tied to a bunch of teams. So I'm going to click on that date. Okay. So now when you go down, you scroll down, you will only see your game up here. Again, you will not see all of these games, just your game. Okay, so now I need to go and find my game, probably on the bottom. So 16G. So this is the one I need to put at 11:30 on the 4th, which is what I'm on the 4th at Burgess Park. Okay, so we're going to get rid of these fields. So I need to hit here at Burgess. Okay. So there's multiple ways to do this. You could either drag and drop, which is what I prefer. I don't make mistakes. Okay. So I'm going to click on Get My Game. I could either hit Edit, and I could choose my match here. It would be Burgess, and it won't be an 11v11. It'll be 7v7 field. So status would be scheduled. Match date is there. So this is important, right? If you put 11:30 and don't put AM or PM, sometimes it won't go in properly. So you got to put 11:30 AM. End time, this is also important. So for 7v7 games, we're doing an hour and 15-minute slot. So that's 75 minutes. If I put over, let's say 90 minutes, let's say, then the second team coming after your match will not be able to get that time slot because you went over the time. So this is why I like to drag and drop, but that's fine. And I will email to you guys. So every 7v7 match is an hour and 15 minutes. 9v9 is an hour and 30. And 11v11 is 2 hours. So if I were to put the time, I would just put 75 minutes and we'll populate. So you could do that there, hit save. You could do it that way, or, which is what I prefer, you could simply click this crosshair and drag it to where you want. Burgess at 11:30. Okay, so grab this crosshair, grab and drag, and I could just drop it there at Burgess 11:30. I need to make sure I put it on the right field, so I put it on the incorrect field. It's not 11v11, so I just simply grab it and move it over. Okay, And so now my game slot will end at the appropriate time, so that the next match could start. Okay. So that's that. If you need to change a date, so let's say, one of these matches is here on the 4th. I need to change a date. I could just simply grab the crosshair and move it to one of these other dates on the calendar. And once I do that, I just click on that date on the calendar and you do the same thing. Just drag and drop, or you hit edit, your choice. So as Jeremy was saying, so we want to make sure that this time matches what we have in Biden. So it should be on my schedule now. So I'm going to go to team management, go back to matches. I'm going to double check that it is in accurately at the right time, the right field, right date. So I don't know why this takes so long. Okay, so I need to pick my team again, which is 16G Barcelona. Look out Premier Fall League, search. Okay. And scrolling down, and I'm there. I'm in 11-4, 11:30. Burgess Park 7v7. Okay, so now my opponent knows when and where to go. So I could cross-check that with FIGA, and I'm good. It's approved. 11:30. Everything matches up. Burgess Park, I got it here. I could click on this. It'll show me the details. 16G Barcelona. So I'm set. Okay, so then you go back to your team's BIGA page. Usually, I mean, give it about 10 to 12 hours. If you put it in at nighttime, it'll probably populate the next morning. So then BIGA automatically will update this and put it on the correct time. So this, if I look tomorrow morning, this will be there at 11:30, right? So then now you're done. Now your team is informed, your opponent's informed, and everybody is set. And just continue on like that, and you're good. Jeremy, Vanina, have I missed anything?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah, very good. There was one thing that I noticed that I had to go and check while you were talking, so I didn't stop you before. But I think if you add an extra event, like if you wanted to add a team party or you had a scrimmage that you were going to add, when the scheduler clicks on that new event, they don't have the same menu as you. Again, I think you've got a special menu as the head scheduler. So when they click on that, they're going to get a window that pops up that says select game, practice, or game or scrimmage or other event. And so they can put it on there, but just like you were saying, any team that coach is affiliated with, they'll see if they go to the total coach schedule. So like your Columbus Day weekend that you show there, that'll show up on, like if they click your name, they'll be able to see all the weekends where you've got an additional event in addition to your games. So they won't select a club event or whatever was in the menu. They'll just kind of get the total window that comes up, and they'll just kind of select what type of event they want to add in there.
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. Okay, so yeah, just put it on your team calendar, and then when all the other schedulers click on the coach's name, they'll see this, right?
Yep.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so that's it. Some important dates. We need to get all of your August scheduled games on the calendar by August 15th. Likely you'll only have one game that's scheduled on August 26th. So you got about a week to get that one game scheduled in. And then the rest of the games need to be in by September 1st. We're asking that all games be played by November 19th, the weekend before Thanksgiving. This is because our field contracts, coaches contracts, everything is done by that weekend. So please, usually teams are really good about it. Just say, hey, we need to be done by this date, and they'll move, right? So it's usually not an issue. NPL games need to all be scheduled by 8/11. And those are probably already in. And I think that's it, right? Does anybody have questions, or we need to go over anything?
I think, what about reschedules, Amr?
Okay, so reschedules. If I want to, so in Viga, so this is edit request. So if I need to reschedule this game in Viga, I would just say edit request. Click on here, and then, oh, I won't do that. I would just hit delete.
So I think that if you've kind of scheduled something and then you need to take it off the schedule before the lock date,
Yeah.
then you can do it that way. But if they've had a game, let's say they had a rain out, for example, and they've got to reschedule that one, where the field and the referees and everything were already locked, so that would show up on their schedule there as locked. Should they email you first before?
Yeah, how did you handle that in the past? Because I know that's a little
So
different that we, didn't really have to never
right,
go.
so we had the game locked, which meant that you couldn't change the game in the system, and that was really to prevent somebody from moving a game without us informing the referee, assigner, and all the other parties. And it also ensured that you had a field in place before you could actually schedule something. So what we would do, because and I don't know if we have any in Palo Alto residents, but the in the Palo Alto fields, they we have to give the fields back at some point, and then we'd have to go and ask the city for a field. So it was a little bit slower, and maybe with a combined grouping here, we don't necessarily have to do that because we may have fields over at Burgess Park or some of the other Menlo Park fields. But we would go in and we'd send a request to the head scheduler, so someone like yourself, and then they would unlock the game, which then would bring up the ability to just go in and select. Once we unlocked it, it would show up as a new request, and you could go in and change the new request. So you just go back under that select field. Once it was unlocked, you'd select your new time slot, and then it would go through the same system all over again.
Okay.
So it was really just a request out to you. You'd unlock it, or one of us would unlock it, and then they'd be free to reschedule then.
Okay, so perfect. Yeah, we'll do that same route then. Just shoot me an email if we need to reschedule for some reason after it's locked, rain out, whatever have you, and we'll unlock it for you to reschedule. Makes sense. Okay. All right.
Hey, Amar, can I ask a sort of season specific question, I guess? Since, just wondering so I schedule for a 77 North team. And I'm only seeing Burgess is the only option for 77s. Is that because I'm a North team? Like, are there other teams at the South or other fields that the South teams have access to?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So you'll have access to all the fields. I just haven't populated them in yet, all of them, because
okay.
Literally every day I'm still working with AY and Palo Alto and the user groups and the city just to finalize all the fields.
Okay.
So
do you have any idea if we're likely to have access to Lyle for 77s too? Or is it just Burgess?
We likely will. So here's the timelines, right?
Okay. Okay. No, sorry. Not.
No, it's a great question.
I can wait.
Yeah, it's a great question. So Menlo Park fields, they don't officially release fields to me until end of August, actually, and it's always been like that.
Oh,
it's been very unique this season with the NorCal putting their schedule out way earlier than before, right? So with those two, different ends of the spectrum there, it makes it unique for us, right? So as soon as I know Burgess I'll have available because I spoke with AOI, I spoke with the other user groups, so I already did my due diligence there. Nobody else is going to use that little portion of the field, right? I'm sure do you remember that little small field? So I'm good there. So I was able to put those in.
Okay, awesome.
So as soon as fields keep coming, I'm just going to put them in, right, day by day.
Okay.
But
so we may not. So more fields may show up after tomorrow. Is what you're saying?
Say that again. Sorry.
So even though we're gonna start, like I'm scheduled for a 15B team. So when we're allowed to request fields starting tomorrow evening, more fields may still show up.
Yes,
that-
more fields will show up
Okay.
in Menlo Park.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's nice because then, like, if you have kind of a late game that like they aren't getting back to you, there might still be fields available.
Yeah, no, I know there's pros and cons, I guess, right? And
Right.
it's just unique that way. But we'll have
Okay.
some Palo Alto fields in there, and
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
And we do have time, right? Even though NorCal put the schedule out so early, we have
Mhm.
until September 1st to get all the games scheduled. So that's almost a month, right? So
Yeah. Okay.
no, that's a good question. Anything else? I can see.
Amar, there's a question from Jack
Amar,
about
yeah, Amar, this is Jack. You were saying that the last game you played on the 19th of November, and I see a game for December 2nd on my schedule. And I'm sure I'm reading something wrong.
No, you probably read it right. So officially, NorCal is allowing us, I think, to schedule the last game played by like December 2nd, 3rd that weekend. But for us as a club, all of our coaching contracts, all of our field, negotiation contracts and whatnot is done that weekend before Thanksgiving. So I had a game 2 scheduled on December 2nd, and I just simply asked the team, hey, can we move it to earlier date? They said, yeah, no problem, and that's what we did.
Oh, so those dates on that tentative schedule aren't necessarily like mandatory. They're just
Correct. You could
okay.
yeah.
I thought I had the schedule on that date. Okay.
Yeah, no, you don't have to. NorCal is, suggesting that you do, right? But if both teams come up with a date that's acceptable for both parties, like that's totally fine. Right. Sometimes you get games a lot, right? And especially if you have a coach that has 3 teams, and your opponent usually is in the same boat. A lot of coaches coach multiple teams, so both parties are aware. It's kind of a dance that you got to do with each other. So yeah, and if you do want to schedule or put out a different date, Brian, just give them some options. Like you always get a better response saying, hey, we can't play December 2nd. Can we play, these 3 dates in the morning, or give them some type of morning, afternoon, give them something to choose from. And usually they're a lot more receptive, and they'll hit the ball back, and you can go from there.
yeah, based on my experience from last year, the communication is really important. We need to respond to offers and communication by the opponent team when you are scheduling away team, because we've been demonstrating how to schedule the home game, but we also need to be involved in the away games communication. So we need to respond pretty fast to meet the requirement by the league. And we also need to get agreement on everything. So in a certain way, if you schedule a game and people never respond to you to say that they accept, we might be fine, but I think it's really important to try to get a consensus so we keep good relationship with our clubs and our opponents.
Yeah, that's a great point. So what I do, I just want to make sure that all of these bubbles I have answered or have communicated with. And, this will show you how many messages there are. They're not pending, they're just how many there are. I like to print this out. I like to have real estate and kind of look it over. So this is my first away game that got scheduled, right? So I'm going to click on that bubble. This is how you communicate. So they reached out to me July 31st. I just confirming that 9 a.m. works for you. So they were nice enough, like Vanina said, they wanted to make sure to work with me. I looked at my coach's schedule. Yep, it sure did. And so they put it on there. You will get some teams that just kind of don't communicate with you very well, or they take a long time. If it's persistent and you don't hear anything for weeks, let me know, and I'll contact their admin or whatnot. Because sometimes some schedulers are overwhelmed or whatnot. So, but yeah, be really good on these chats, even if you don't know yet. Like I think on a couple of them I put, well, on this one I think I put, yeah, see, hey, sounds good. They requested for an afternoon slot. I say, hey, sounds good. We're getting fields from the city shortly. basically saying, yep, I read your text. I'll have more information later. And so just it's really good to stay in correspondence. Good point, Melina.
Yeah, and on the same note, I don't know how you're going to monitor your communication. For me, I have to go through Godsport because I see many teams, but you might go just from emails that you receive in your email box from Godsport about each game. But it's also important to keep an eye on those emails coming in the future because especially if people want to do changes or things like this. The scheduling continues during the season, not just at the time when you're doing your homework.
Yeah, that's a great point. So a lot of what we do for schedulers is, front loaded, right? In the first couple of weeks, we'll probably get all these games filled out, and in an ideal world, we'll be done, right? But let's say it rains, right, in San Bruno, or for whatever reason their field's closed or whatnot. If once they generate a chat here, you will get an email. Like I said, I'm sure some of you guys are getting those emails, and so that will, trigger you to respond to them. However, I don't know. I don't always get the emails. I mean, I get hundreds of emails, so I don't go that route. I just come here and check every single time. So if this bubble changed to a 4, then I know they sent me an email and I got to check it. Right. So just periodically check it throughout the season just to make sure you're on top of everything. But especially if it rains.
So I can hop in with a few pearls of wisdom. Actually, I don't think I ever introduced myself, but for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm the former president of Stanford Soccer Club. I also used to manage all sorts of teams, so I've run the gamut here. So there are a couple of things that, Vanina and Amar were hitting on, but I just wanted to clarify, there's some league rules around scheduling. And one of those is that the league, NorCal, that is, kind of looks at the scheduling, and they kind of have a whole list of things that are really reasonable for rescheduling and things that are not reasonable. And so, when you schedule with another team, you can try to make a demand, like, for example, our coach has another game scheduled at that time. Can we schedule another for another time? Now, the NorCal doesn't actually look at that as a reasonable excuse to move a game. So, a home team has the right to basically schedule the game whenever they want on the day that the game was scheduled. So, you may run into this a few times where you try and get them to move the game and they refuse to move the game, and your team will have to go and play at the time and location for when it's scheduled. Now, as Amar and Manina were showing, like, if you're nice and you communicate well, usually many people will accommodate it. But if they don't, you just know that those were the rules, and you'll have to go forward with it. Similarly, about the communication, if you communicate with someone and they don't respond within 48 hours, then the league views it as you can go ahead and make that change as you requested it. So if now I wouldn't, that's a little bit of a nuclear option. I would first try to contact Amar, get him to have him contact the league office first and get them to respond before you change. That's sort of the preferred way to go. But if a team is not responding and you're saying, hey, is this time good for you? Is this time good for you? And they don't respond, you can just go ahead and schedule it. You have the right as the home team to schedule it for that day and time. If you want to move the game to a different date, NorCal says both teams have to agree to move the game. So if they don't respond within 48 hours, technically you have the right to move the game. Again, usually you want to go through Amar and go through the league before you do something of that nature. Let's see here. And just the last thing, when you're trying to move a game or have them schedule a game that works with your team, the earlier you make the request, the better. If you try to make the request a week before the game, that's unlikely to get a result. And I would say, I think you cannot change a game within a week of scheduling it. If the game is set and then you go and try and change it, or if you change something, let's say if you schedule the home game and then you change something within a week, I don't think that's allowed by NorCal. So just be careful of if you run into a situation, oh, you know, 6 of our players got injured, you know, make sure you communicate with that other team first before you change something.
Yep. Thank you, Jeremy. And to piggyback on that, the reason why you can't change it within a week is, you know, it's set in stone. The teams are there, and also the referees, right? We have a referee shortage, as you guys have probably heard. So our ref coordinators, they go through a lot of work to get all these games fulfilled. And so if we're changing them a week and a half, or, you know, right before, it throws everything off and just makes their life really, really difficult. So we definitely want to get these games scheduled, you know, in advance with ample time, right? Because we have to think about the referees as well. And also with scheduling these games, you know, Brian, to go back to your point a little bit more, let's say the San Bruno team, you know, they still want to play the game on this date, 8/26, but if they didn't have any fields available that suited both teams, you could email me and we could potentially change it to our home game if we have, you know, kind of a more suitable time that both teams could do. So you could change from home and away as well. Just email me if that's the case, and we'll have to email NorCal and let them know. When you do email me, if you could just highlight and include all this information with, you know, the 2 teams that need to be a home and away swap, that will make it much easier for me. All right. Oh, somebody had a question. Yeah, if you're not attached to your team and got sport, yes, definitely email Christine, or she'll get you set up there. I think. All right. Okay, any other questions? Oh. Okay. Okay, if we're all set, we could end it. Yep, we're all good. Okay. I'll send out a follow email too. Just good general nuances and dates, and I will send this out as well. So, and please feel free to reach out to me with anything. You know, no question's a dumb question. You know, once we get the hang of this, you'll be a pro in no time. We'll be all set. Okay.
Thank you, Amr.
All right.
Thanks,
Yep.
Summer.
Thank you,
Thank
Jeremy.
you.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate you guys doing this. It's a huge role. So thank you. Thank you very much. Courtney, you're a pro. I already know.
Thanks, Summer. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Ever.
Let me